is Scotland, The Drive, with Alan Douglas and Ali Bally.
Hello and welcome to Scotland, The Drive. I'm driving solo. At long last, I got rid of him.
Sorry I'm late. Here I am. I was just parking the car.
Just parked my car.
Yeah,
Right, okay. What have we got this time? What are you parking then?
The Moda 7.
All right. Now,
I'll be getting that next week.
I'm getting it next week, yeah. So is it the fact that it's hard to reverse into the space out there, or is it you just haven't got used to reversing since you hit the gear?
I just misread the time.
All right.
I thought I had another hour. Anyway,
being a podcast, time doesn't really matter, you know.
It doesn't. The time is irrelevant. We've got all the time in the world.
Right, let's go on with it
So what
then.
have you been saying?
I've just been saying welcome.
Oh, I see. All right.
So I look forward to the Moda. Are you enjoying it?
Yes.
Right. Okay. So,
Like all these Chinese cars, I get annoyed at it. But I get annoyed.
You get annoyed at a BMW, and that's not.
I know.
Yeah,
No, I wasn't. Well, I wasn't.
You were.
Yeah. Okay. We'll talk about that in a wee while.
Yeah. The one that I'm looking forward to getting in a couple of weeks coming up is the Ranger. You've got that next week, haven't you?
I have
In
it
fact,
next week. Tomorrow.
Aye,
Oh,
tomorrow.
Yeah. Tomorrow now, time is irrelevant.
So, things to move. You know, when you've got things to move, you say, right, what car have we got coming up on the road?
You're going to use that Ford Ranger, aren't you?
I am, yeah. The last storm that we had, storm whatever she was called, we suffered fairly badly. We lost my outside office, which was a big cube which we used to sit in, and it was great. It was great. And unfortunately, on the night of the storm, we left the door open, and the wind went in, and it took off, and it was nailed down. And also, I got a knock on the door from a neighbour across the back saying, "Your fence is blowing down." So it's still lying in needing to go to the recycling department.
So that's what the Ranger will be doing. Well,
So there we are. That's what we've got for you on Scotland The Drive. We have been driving as well. Volvo.
The Volvo ES90.
Yeah.
Right, nice car.
It's a beautiful looking car.
Mind you, so it should be. It's 900 quid short of 80 grand. 80.
I know.
Expensive car, but yeah, I liked it. I liked the look of it. I didn't like the colour. What was the colour? It was sand or something.
I thought the colour set it off. That was good.
Sand dune is the colour. No, I wasn't sure about the colour. But some annoying feature. The bizarre thing was the rear window.
Oh.
From the outside, it's a big, proper rear window.
Yeah.
From the inside, it's a wee slat.
The slats. It's
just that. But there's headrests block the view.
3 headrests over the back, and you can't see out the back window at all.
No.
I took it, Larry and I took it to Aviemore, up to Inverness, back round, and came back. And so we were away with it for a couple of days. Thoroughly enjoyed driving it. It did have a lot of curb appeal because you could see heads being turned, and that's what I always watch for. If you stop at traffic lights, or if you're just taking off or in car parks, just stand back and watch people having a look at it. Even when it arrived outside the door, cars were going up and down the street.
No, when you were driving it, they were saying, "There's Ali Bally."
Yeah, how can he afford that?
Actually, I don't think they would see it was you because I think it had tinted windows, didn't it? Heavily tinted.
Yeah.
Yeah, what was the other annoying thing about Volvos generally is you can't make any adjustments on the screen while you're on the move. Now, I know it's a safety feature, but sometimes when you're driving along, you want to change some things, you know. I think you can change the radio channels with difficulty, and I think you can alter the heating or the ventilation. But beyond that, you can't. It just won't let you touch anything. It won't let you adjust anything. And I can see the sense of it, but it can be deeply annoying.
Yeah. I tried a couple of times to get radio stations as I was driving around and trying to flick to different radio stations, and you just can't do it when you're driving. And it's annoying anyway with these cars that do have the screens that you're trying to take your eyes off the road, and then the car tells you, pay attention, you have taken your eyes off the road. Yeah. Yes, because I want to change the radio.
Yeah, all the controls are on the screen, so I have to take my eyes off the road to look at the screen. And when I look at the screen, you tell me off for looking at the screen. I'd be almost tempted to swear at it, but that's another matter.
That's another thing altogether.
BMW.
What
about range? How did you get on? Because that one was an extended range.
Yeah, it was Well, it took us from here up to Coylham Bridge and then up to Inverness, round by Boat of Garden and down at Garton. Sorry,
Garton, Boat of Garton.
Boat of Garton. Then back down to Aviemore, and that's where I charged it.
Yeah.
And so it was all right, and it was £35, I think, to put the charge in.
I think it was on a full charge or on 80 and I think it was 90% charge. I think it was reading 250 miles, which isn't brilliant. It's not bad, but it's not brilliant. But a nice car. They are beautifully made. But yeah.
As I said on a little bit that I posted when we were out driving it, teasing, it's a car. It's a luxury car, and if you can afford it, you don't worry about any of the bills that go with it and filling it up with electricity. But nearly £80,000.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But a nice car, but loads of space. Did you see the space in the back? It's huge in the back.
Lovely car. It was. I thoroughly enjoyed driving it. I have to say, I thoroughly enjoyed driving. But would I be buying one to put in my driveway? No.
Okay, so we've discussed the Volvo, and we're going to be looking at the Audi Q3 and the BMW iX3 later on. But what else has been happening?
Well, I noticed that there was a report came in regarding rural town tops the list for car crash scammers. So I'm going to read this because it was quite amusing. A picturesque market town has been named as Scotland's hotspot for cash car insurance scams. Whoever knew there was? Do we live a sheltered life or something? But people are actually doing this just to get some money. Where is it? Where it comes out top? Crieff in Perthshire.
Oh, that hotbed of crime.
That hotbed, yeah, has become a target for fraudsters inventing or deliberately causing road traffic collisions in a bid to claim compensation. Analysis by the Insurance Fraud Bureau found the hometown of Hollywood star Ewan McGregor, it's all his fault, had the highest rate of fraudulent car insurance claims in the country last year. And before anybody says anything, I know he doesn't live there anymore. Okay. Now, the north of Glasgow was second on the Scottish list, followed by the Isle of Skye. It's all these foreigners going up there. The amount of foreign plates we passed on the cars. So Isle of Skye, and then Boat of Garden.
Boat of Garden.
Garden. Yeah, Garden. Boat of Garden, which we went through. We'll come back to that in a second. And also the south side of Glasgow.
Well, you can understand that. Glasgow. But Crieff.
I know.
Crieff is Isle of Skye.
These are the places that they're actually inventing accidents.
So why is that?
Well,
did they give an explanation?
Sudden braking to cause an innocent driver behind to collide remains one of the most common ploys.
But are these people driving through these towns, or people who live in the town?
It's probably people that live in the towns, or the visitors. I mean, a bit of both. There's a lot of holiday makers and things, so that might make it up. These are the places they would visit.
That seems bizarre.
Yeah, isn't it? I mean, and talking of holiday makers, I mean, I don't like when holiday makers get ripped off. I don't like when we get ripped off. But I went to the Boat of
Garton
deliberately on the way back coming down because I wanted to go to the pub there. I've been before and I had a great atmosphere, lots of people there, etc., etc. So we decided to go for a late lunch. It wasn't late, it's after 1 o'clock. There was nobody sitting outside at all. We go in and we say, serving us? Yeah, just go through to the bar. So I went through the bar, all set out for lunch, not a soul in the place, apart from the barman who was sitting talking to himself. So we ordered some food from the menu. I'd just like to say that I think I now found Scotland's most expensive fish and chips. You did get tartar sauce, but the price for a fish and chip plate, a supper on a plate, £23. Unbelievable. No wonder the bloody place was empty. Because
how big was the fish?
Oh, it was just a standard fish. It wasn't a whale or anything. And even if it was, I didn't want a whale. I wanted just a fish supper, but it wasn't until I went to pay the bill. £23 and a pint of I've forgotten what
Beer.
beer. Yeah, I've forgotten the beer that I had. £7.
I don't know, is that expensive?
Well, it was expensive for me, this wee boy from Fife. And I'll tell you, got a little shock there. Yeah, boy, sir. It was no real. It's unbelievable. So,
Right.
I would, if it was a high fine dining restaurant or whatever, then I might understand it, but it wasn't. It was tables and chairs. And you know what I did? When I was coming back down on the Sunday, one place that gets a reputation for being very expensive is House of Brewer
Oh yeah, on the A9.
on the A9. So I decided to pop in there and we had a coffee and we both commented, we thought £3 something for a cup of coffee was quite reasonable compared to some of the bigger chains. So we had the cup of coffee and when I came out, they have, if you haven't been there recently, they have a fish and chip shop and it's separate, but it sits in the corner. And instead of, well, as well as having fish and chips on the side of the building in big letters, they have fish and chips, lobster and chips,
Oh,
and pie and chips. So I went to have a look at what a fish supper would cost at what is supposed to be the most expensive place. I wrote it down because I thought there's a comparison. £11.90,
so less than half.
less than half price. So if you're thinking you'd like a good fish supper, miss out the pub in Boat Carten because 23 quid, he's having a laugh. I'm sorry, mate, but little wonder you were empty and nobody was buying meals, they were buying sandwiches.
Well, that's quite a story. I'm just wondering what it's got to do with driving. But then, of
Well, it
course,
has.
you drove there.
I drove there.
What was the car park like?
Which one? The car parking at the Boat of Carten is not good. It's a very difficult car park to get in and out.
They didn't charge you to park there.
No, I'm surprised.
Okay.
But it has to do with Scotland the Drive podcast because tourists, I don't like tourists being ripped off. And, we're talking and generally at the moment about how hard hospitality are being hit. Well, if we don't do enough, like it's like turning up on a farm shop and asking for a baked potato and they turn and say, I'm sorry, we've no potatoes. Come on, get your act together.
I once went to the Isle of Skye and Broadford, and it was something like, I don't know, 12 o'clock. And we were looking for a cup of tea or some lunch, just a light lunch. And there was this little cafe. And I thought, oh, great. The cafe, tried the door was locked. So I tapped on it. There were people inside. And I said, indicated to open the door. No, it's 12 o'clock. And I said, but, lunch? No. No, you'll have to wait. We couldn't get lunch at 12 o'clock. They were there, but no, the rules were the rules, and whatever time they opened for lunch, I was too early at 12 o'clock.
You see, that some hospitality owners like to jump on the bandwagon and complain, but you've got to have your product properly sorted out. It's like going back a few episodes when I mentioned that Friday night that Lorraine and I went to this new club that had opened in the city, and they'd been advertising that on a Friday night from 7 o'clock or 5 o'clock, whatever, that was the time to go and get cocktails. They were doing lots of cocktails. So I thought, right, we'll go in there and have a cocktail. So we went in. Can I have that cocktail? And they give us a menu. And I ordered what Lorraine wanted and what I fancied. And they said, no, sorry, we can't do these. I said, you can't do them? Said, no, the blender's not working. Well, go and buy another one then. This is Friday night, 2 weeks or 3 weeks after the official opening, and they're starting a weekend off with they don't have a £10 blender.
Final story about
Welcome to Scotland.
Hospitality establishments. I went to a wedding in Aberdeen. And it was a Saturday wedding, and on the Sunday morning, we were sitting down for breakfast, and I said, I'd like so and some mushrooms. We don't do mushrooms on a Sunday. Huh? Why, is it against your religion? They don't do mushrooms on a Sunday. There was a big Asda down the road. I thought if they'd run out of mushrooms, you just nip down to Asda and you'll get some.
That's how I felt about the blender. Go to Tesco and buy a blender.
Yeah. Anyway, enough of hospitality.
What else is on the the podcast today? Well, we'll be telling you who won the mug. It's simple. All you have to do is subscribe and you'll be entered into the draw for the Scotland the Drive mug. And it's a duo that come out as the winner. Find out more in a moment.
Alan Douglas and Ali Bally. This is Scotland the Drive.
So we should look at some motoring issues, shouldn't we?
Yes.
You see, Transport Scotland says civil engineering firms will be able to bid for contracts worth a total of £1.94 billion to complete the dualling of the A9 between Inverness and Perth. Well, hasn't taken long, has it? I think they're still working on the basis of 2035.
There's a lot of work going on. Having gone up there at the weekend.
They doing anything?
Yes, yeah, they are working. They're working away. And, I can see the reason that our new Transport Minister got his jacket on with the A9 dueling and everything and in front of the press and the TV cameras jumping on the bandwagon. But if it gets the work done, great. And by the way, Mr. Transport Minister, as Scotland's only podcast on motoring, we would love you to be on this one of our editions, wouldn't we?
That would be very
good.
nice.
Yeah, we'd like you to do my first drive.
Yeah. So
Transport Minister for Scotland, Mr. Flynn, we've tried to get in contact, but the barriers are up. You're a protected man now. So if you can give us a call, please, that would be great.
And talking of roadworks, the A75, you've been down that way recently,
No.
Dumfries and Galloway. It's a very busy road. It used to be really busy with all the Irish lorries going to Stranraer. I'm not sure if it's still quite so busy because they go from Cairnryan now, but the A75, a lot of accidents there. Anyway, the last two places that need a bypass are Crocketford and Springholm, and they're the only two that haven't been bypassed yet. So local residents and road users have been given the chance to view and have their say on an updated route. Or designs for the bypasses of those two villages. So that was just last week. So we'll see how that goes, but that's much needed. All the talk is about the A9, but the A75 needed a lot of work. What else was I going to talk about? Oh, yeah. We talked about the Perthshire Classic Rally.
Yes.
The Perthshire Classic Car Tour.
Right.
And this was, what it says, a classic car tour organised by the Rotary Club of Perth. We give a mention to it, and I'm very pleased to say they told me that it was a great success, and it raised £12,000 for charity, and £6,000 is going to, or has gone to, the Race Against Dementia and Prostate Scotland. So they got £6,000 each from
Very good.
So it's great when you can see events like that where they run an event, people enjoy it, and it brings great benefit to those charities as well. And low emission zones.
Oh, yes.
Great success.
Yeah.
Fantastic. Did you see that the campaign to reduce emissions has been a great success? The amount of greenhouse gases produced by the country fell by 1% compared to the previous year, which is great news, except for transport. So, all these LEZs apparently have contributed nothing
at all
to the reduction in emissions. So, in fact, there was an increase in pollution from transport, both in terms of domestic transport and international aviation. So, bringing all the LEZs, not only do the figures not go down, they, in fact, go up. So there you go.
If you have just joined the podcast, great to have your company. This is Scotland the Drive, Scotland's podcast, looking at issues on motoring. And we have a guest most weeks to talk about their first drive. And our guest this week is former First Minister for Scotland, Lord Jack McConnell. Just Jack to us, because we've known him for a long time. So he'll be along shortly to tell us about his first drive. But before that, we should maybe get driving.
I think we should.
This is Scotland the Drive. with Alan Douglas and Ali Bally.
The Scotland the Drive team have been out road testing the BMW iX3, so we decided to give you our views separately. So we don't know what each other's going to say, and Alan will be along in a moment with his views. But as far as I'm concerned, what a cracking looking car. Miles and miles of curb appeal. Yes, this car delivers on all fronts. In fact, delivers on all front, back and sides. The price starts at just under £60,000, and on a full charge you'll get an amazing amount of miles. But stay with us, Alan will reveal all about that mileage in a moment. Now, you may have guessed I like the look of the iX3. It has tons of road presence, with its impressive front end and new version of BMW's kidney grille in the centre. And to give the grille that extra touch of style, they're illuminated. Adding to the exterior style are the LED lights front and rear. The interior, well, that just oozes class. Very comfortable seats, panoramic iDrive, a 17.9-inch infotainment touchscreen, which is easy to operate, and owners should find it fun to program in the many side steps to make the drive easy and to make that car yours. 4 adults will travel with ease, and a 520-litre boot and another 58 litres of space under the bonnet gives you ample storage. So, there are various storage areas also for smaller items. I think that the BMW iX3 is a fantastic drive and a good looker. Let's find out now what Alan thought of it.
I have been known to swear at cars in the past, usually when they've let me down by spluttering to a halt on a dark, rainy night. I confess I uttered some bad words while behind the wheel of BMW's splendid iX3, but it was nothing to do with mechanical failure. Far from it. The car is a fine piece of kit, worthy of the brand's claim of being the ultimate driving machine. It oozes style and quality and is bristling with technology, from the stunning panoramic iDrive shallow display, which spreads right across the eyeline below the windscreen above the dash. When I first saw it, I worried it would be too much of a distraction, but it actually does none of that and is informative and clear. Apart from the overall dramatic design of the new car, it's one of the most distinctive features of the iX3, which is the first of the new breed, or Neue Klasse, of electric vehicles from the Munich maker. We can expect a total of 40 new models over the next couple of years. So it looks great, with an imposing stance and a stylish and revolutionary interior, but the most significant thing about this EV is its range. You should get 500 miles from a full charge. And the incredible thing is that it's not just a claim, you actually do. In my week with the car, I did a lot of running about with a mix of dual carriageway, motorway and back roads, and the only time I visited a charging station was to replenish the battery before I handed the car to Ali. That range wipes the floor with all the competition from the Japanese, German, Chinese and American Tesla, and the charging is super fast too, barely allowing time for a quick cup of coffee. Driving the iX3 is a delight, with stunning power and acceleration up to 62 miles an hour in under 5 seconds, although if you hit the throttle hard, it may reduce your overall range. The car feels huge and significant and is a looker on the road, attracting admiring glances from other drivers, pedestrians and even the occasional cyclist. Oh yes, and the swearing. Well, having forgotten to cancel some of the safety features, I was reprimanded at one point for not keeping my eyes on the road. At that point, and nothing to do with the sat-nav, I told the technology exactly where to go, using some choice language. The voice-activated system immediately responded. "That's not nice," said the disembodied voice. And that was me told off.
Scotland the Drive with Alan Douglas and Ali Bally.
So that's the BMW, a cracker of a car, and even though I swore at it, but actually after I swore at it, I thought I'll just try to see what else happens. So I said, "I love you." And it said, "Thank you, that's very nice." Oh, very nice. The car was nice though, wasn't
It was a lovely car, yeah. We were saying, I felt after it, and I don't know if you felt the same, we drive so many cars and so many of them, you're glad to see the back of them, but that one I really liked, and it's a car I would have myself.
Absolutely.
It's expensive, but 15 grand cheaper than the Volvo.
Yeah.
I know which I'd rather have.
Absolutely. It was a great car. In fact, with the Motor Writers Association, which we are part of, Scottish Motor Writers Association, there are 15 members, and at least 3 or 4 of them who were not really into electric cars and weren't that keen on it, have come back and said that's the best car we've driven. So I think, as far as the Scottish Car of the Year is concerned, others have to up their game. I think, it's a while. We've got to November to go, but I think the BMW has set the mark.
They've still got a few more cars to drive.
Oh, yes.
So who knows? But it was a lovely car, and I feel it's a fresh new era for BMW. They've kind of they were a bit in a rut, the cars were all pretty much the same. You could tell straight away that was a BMW, and they've dramatically changed the whole image of the thing and the driving experience. They what do they do? What's the world's been? What is it? Ultimate driving machine.
Yeah.
Ultimate driving machine. And I think in the case of the iX3, it is the ultimate driving machine.
Thank you very much indeed for everybody who subscribed, and we're getting more and more doing that all the time. It's great because it doesn't cost you anything and helps our numbers. It's as simple as that. We want to see who's there. And if you enter, we draw one out every week to win one of our mugs. And I'd delighted to say that we're bang up to date now, because I got an email from a gentleman, Duncan, who's saying, got my mug last week, so sorry about the time it took to get the mug to you, but you've got it, so we're all up to date. So this week's winner, coming out of the ones that have subscribed, all we've got, of course, is a name, so you have to contact us so I can get the mug out to you. Sandy and Chris. Hey, congratulations, Sandy and Chris. You're the winner. No questions asked. So if you would like to get in touch with us, please, it's scotlandthedrive@gmail.com. Send me an email with your address and I'll make sure that we get that.
So Sandy and Chris, but they only get one mug, don't they?
Oh, yes.
One mug and 2 straws.
Yeah. Just so they can try again.
Right. Okay. Jack McConnell.
Let's go.
Yeah. Lord McConnell of Glen somewhere.
Yeah.
In Arden.
Yeah.
Anyway, Jack McConnell, he is very much the former First Minister of Scotland, and now in the House of Lords. So he's got, he quite likes his cars.
Oh, he likes his cars, yeah.
But he wasn't all that sure about sitting the test in the first place, if I remember. So
let's find out more.
This is Scotland, the Drive, my first car.
Scotland Drive and my first drive today. Delighted to welcome to the programme Lord Jack McConnell. How are you, sir?
I'm very well, thank you very much.
Thank you for joining us.
Sorry, we've just been interrupted. Sorry, I thought Diana had gone. She's just come in and handed me something. My apologies.
That's quite all right.
Feel free to start again if you want.
No, we just keep all these things in. It's good fun.
Right, okay.
Yeah. Jack, going back away to the early days, I mean, I always associated Arran with you, but you were born in Irvine. You're officially an Ayrshireman, aren't you? As Arran is.
Yeah, my folks were both from farming families in North Ayrshire, and I was actually born in the same hospital as Nicola Sturgeon, 2 of Scotland's First Ministers. What a small country we are, born in the same hospital. But neither my mother or my father were the oldest in the family, so they weren't able to take on the farm in either case, and they had always looked across to Arran from the Ayrshire coast and thought, well, maybe we could go and start a new life over there. So they took on an old farm steading in a tenancy up in the hills above Flumlash, and did their very best to try and make it a success. It was a tough business, as you know, and it was a smallish farm, so it was never particularly commercially successful. But it was a good life, and then my mum opened a tea room in 1970. Where we were sitting in the garden of the farm one day. The farm was right in the middle of the Ross Road. So any of your listeners who know Arran, there are 2 roads that cross Arran, a long one, the String Road, and a shorter one, the Ross Road, which goes up very high, and single track road. So we never had any visitors really as a kid. And we were right in the middle of this road, 5 miles from anywhere. And a car came past one day as we were sitting in the garden eating some of my mum's pancakes. And the car stopped and the family came down and said, "Is this a tea room?" And of course, we weren't a tea room, but we gave them some pancakes. But my mum had the idea, and literally a year later, we had some tables for sunny days. We would have some tables out in the garden, and a young 11-year-old Jack McConnell would go and serve from the kitchen window out onto the garden and serve people their cups of tea and their pancakes and scones. And it became a really successful. Eventually, we had a building, and she won national awards actually for the success of the tea room. But it was very much grounded in farming life.
And was the young Jack McConnell driving at that point?
Now I need to be careful what I say here. Probably.
It's okay, Jack. Everybody's confessed to driving illegally before they were 17.
I think there's been enough police inquiries over recent times, like me adding to the problem. Yeah, I mean, if I'm being honest, I think, and that particularly in the farming communities of the south and the north of the island, the Isle of Arran at that time in relation to driving was a bit like the Wild West. Those were times when most people would at least occasionally drink and drive, where there were cars driving everywhere that probably weren't properly insured. And there were young people, particularly young lads on the farms, who would be driving tractors and even cars from quite a young age, really. My first memory of driving was a complete disaster. I was not the farmer in the family. As I just explained, I was the guy in the tea room helping my mum serve these customers and build up that business. But my younger brother was very much the farmer of the family. I mean, from a very young age, he would drive the tractor on the farm. And I was always a wee bit jealous. And I finally persuaded my dad to let me have a go. I must have been about maybe 13 or something like that. And I managed to drive it for about quarter of a mile before putting it straight into a huge ditch. And I was never allowed anywhere near it again. It was exactly what he had expected to happen, I think. And I fulfilled all his expectations in one go.
And what about cars? You've obviously moved on to driving cars. Can you remember? Sorry, I shouldn't say, can you remember your first car? What was your first car?
Well, the first car I owned was after I was a student. It was when I started teaching in 1983, I think. And it was an Opel Ascona, I remember. And it was basically a hand down from my father. I managed to get it from him, as he was getting himself something else. But I did learn to drive as soon as I was 17. I went off to university about 3 months after being 17, and I was very conscious that if I didn't pass my driving test before I went to university, at some point in my life I would have to sit my driving test on the mainland. Whereas if I did it before I went to university, I could sit the driving test in Arran, and that meant no roundabouts, no traffic lights. At that time, very little traffic even. So I did a driving lesson every single week from the first day after my 18th birthday, and I passed my driving test 3 days before I went to university, and that stood me in good stead after that. But it was definitely a much better option than letting me loose on a mainland road somewhere, which at that time, with all the bad habits I'd learned by that point, would not have been a good idea.
Stirling town centre was not appealing then.
Not at all. I did actually once have to borrow a car when I was a student. And at that point, I had never driven on the mainland, so I'd only ever driven in Ireland. And I had a really terrible abscess and a tooth in my mouth. And I managed to get a dental appointment, but no real way of getting into town. So a guy lent me his car to drive in to this dental appointment. I was completely drugged up with the painkillers and so on. And I suddenly realised I was drove out the university, drove along the main road a wee bit, and suddenly realised I was about to hit my first ever roundabout. And I think I only just made it to the dentist, but I did actually make it and managed to get the tooth dealt with. But that was a scary experience. Driving up to that first roundabout thinking, I haven't really thought this through properly, was quite a scary moment as well.
That's quite, I'd never thought of that, but that's quite interesting, sitting a driving test on the likes of Barron with no roundabouts, and, you just don't think of that, do you?
Absolutely.
Are there any
And there were also
traffic
quite a
lights?
thing. It was quite a thing at the time with, I did go behind the wheel occasionally, probably before it was 100% legal. But there were guys that were at school with me who drove a lot before the age of 17. And they would have terrible problems when they did their driving test because they had learned so many bad habits. By the time they were actually legitimately allowed to go and get a driving lesson, the driving instructor would have a nightmare with them. I remember him telling me about some of my mates who I thought were great drivers because I'd been in the cars when they had been driving. And he would tell me about their driving lessons and what a complete disaster they were because they had not learned the rules. They had just started driving and they drove about the country roads where nobody was noticing, and that was just the way things were. So it was a very interesting development of a skill and a part of life back then that was very reflective of the kind of life that we lived.
So over the years then, Jack, you of course, when you were First Minister, you'd be driven around everywhere. You'd have a chauffeur-driven car. How did you enjoy that?
Did I enjoy it? That's a good question. I did mostly, yeah.
Yeah, quite right.
Yeah. I genuinely used it for work. I treated it like an extension of the office. So some people like to sit in the front and chat to the driver and just get driven home or get driven in the morning. I liked to I like to get some work done when I was there. So I would always sit in the back, have my ministerial briefcase with me, and go through. I've never had a problem being in a car and reading, or anything like that. So I could power through some work on the way in the morning, or even on the way back at night. So I found it useful, and obviously it was a very in other respects it was a luxurious, very very grateful for the privileged existence that I had at that time as well. I'm trying to think of a good story from when I was getting driven around. I ran a campaign when I first became an MP, an MSP, sorry. I was never an MP, but when I first became an MSP, I was representing Motherwell and Wishaw in the Parliament, and one of the things I had discovered about Wishaw, because I wasn't from that area, I had stood there and won in the election, and one of the things I discovered about Wishaw was that it wasn't on any of the main motorway signs. For some reason, if you drove along the M8 or you drove down the M74, or even there was a road went up from the M74 to the M8 on the other side of the town, there were no signs anywhere mentioning Wishaw. They all mentioned Motherwell or Hamilton or Airdrie or whatever. And Wishaw was the same size as all these other places. And it become a bit of a forgotten town. And I thought it was partly because it wasn't on any of these road signs.
Yeah.
And with the new hospital getting built at the time. So I used the new hospital as an excuse to run a campaign to get Wishaw on the road signs. And we were driving into Edinburgh one morning in the ministerial car from home to the Parliament in Edinburgh. And I opened the reply that I got from the Transport Minister to my campaign to get Wishaw on the road signs. And he specifically said in his answer, it's not possible to change the road signs because there's only ever a maximum of 3 towns or place names on a road sign on a motorway, and you never ever mention a hospital. That would not be appropriate. And I looked out the window of the car, and we were driving past Livingston, and there was a huge motorway sign up with 4 place names and a sign for Livingston's hospital. And I literally lifted the phone, I tased off, and said, "You just sent me this letter. It's a complete load of BS." You're going to put Wishaw on these road signs, aren't you? And that was the thing that fixed it for me. And nowadays, if you drive anywhere around about North Lanarkshire, you can see Wishaw on the road signs.
You see Wishaw on there.
Good people of Wishaw were very pleased with their new MSP.
That takes us back to the first or second edition of the podcast, when I asked the Transport Department, the Scottish Government, as to why there were no signposts on any of the motorways for the Queensferry crossing.
There you go.
You can pass road signs that say Forth Road Bridge, but
Yep.
nothing says Queensferry crossing. And they come back with equally as much BS by saying it was a decision was taken not to put anything on signposts that wasn't a destination. So therefore, the Queensferry crossing, as far as the Transport Department and the Scottish office is concerned, is not a destination. So it's still not on the. You can
these
go
things
up and
can
down
always
the
be
M8.
fixed. Yeah. These things are always ultimately a decision by somebody, and decisions can be changed.
Yes.
So
yeah.
that was. I've got a great sign. I've still got the photograph of me standing pointing at the road signs when I launched my campaign back in the summer of 1999 for with the local paper to get the names on the road signs. It was a small victory, but it was a good one.
It was a good victory. Yes. Yeah.
So what about now then, Jack? What do you drive now?
Oh, I've never really, I mean, although I've got loads of stories about driving and so on, I've never really been a car person. I'm not a kind of fancy car driver or even a particularly luxury car driver. In fact, I don't think I've ever owned in my life a brand new car, despite all the, relatively well-paid jobs that I've had over the years. But I did move up a level 3 years ago when I bought my first Volvo. I always thought of the Volvos as being a bit of a boring car that I didn't really fancy. But I was persuaded by a guy in a garage to try one. It's the XC40. Is that it? X40 or XC40?
XC40. Yeah.
And a guy in the garage persuaded me to try this one that he just got in. It was a very low mileage. Somebody just returned it after a year. And I love it. I absolutely love it. I love being in it. The sat nav's not very good, but it's very comfortable. And
So some
I have
people
a bit
say
of a
that
bad back. I've had a bit of a bad back for decades. So I like something that's quite high up. It always helps the back. So that's what I'm enjoying. That's what I'm driving and enjoying right now.
And
So-
do you do
No.
do you do a lot of driving?
I don't really, because of the fact that I'm away from home so much. So
Mhm.
I'm probably abroad once a month, and I'm down in London working most weeks when I'm in the UK. I'll come down here for a few days during the week. But I do enjoy driving. I've always enjoyed driving. But perhaps it was that teenage experience in Arran and living in the middle of the hills. When on that farm, we never went anywhere without having to drive, basically, or be in a car or a vehicle. The council sent a car for us on the farm. Sent a car to pick us up to go to school every day. We had to be ready by 9:15 to get in the car, get down to school. We get driven home immediately after school. If I ever wanted to go anywhere at the weekend, I would hitch a lift in the post van to go down and play football with my pals in the village. And so driving and being in vehicles has always been very much part of my life. And I love being in the car. I love driving. I enjoy driving long distances. I'm really yeah, it's a good space for me. Feels like my wee space, that I can
Yeah.
be in. It's I get my radio on and I'm quite happy.
driving around Arran is nice as well. I mean, the roads are. Last time I was in Arran, it was an awful lot busier than I remembered it, though. There's a lot of traffic in Arran now, isn't there?
Yeah, it's been a bit like I don't think it's as bad as Skye, but some of the other Scottish islands have similar issues with the number of they had the same number of issues with the number of vehicles, but now that you kind of get a boat over there, it's kind of hard to get a vehicle over there. But the roads are good. The scenery is amazing. There's a lot of, even in the single track roads or the tighter roads, there's a lot of passing places. There was a problem for a wee while, which was created by the first tranche of commercial movement of the trees that had been planted back in the 1960s. So when the Forestry Commission first planted trees in the 1960s, it was largely in parts of the island that were not particularly populated, and they tended to be near the single track roads. And the Ross Road in particular was very badly damaged by the lorries when the trees started to get cut. in the 1990s. The roads were really badly damaged by the lorries carrying all this weight. And that has been an on-off problem over the last couple of decades. But there's been a lot of repairs recently, and you can notice the difference. So again, it's a nice place to be driving around.
It's obviously when you look and try and find out about who you're going to be talking to, and obviously we've worked together on a few Let's Jack,
Yes,
Let's Talk, yeah, great things. But I mean, you yourself, you've got so many irons in the fire, Jack. You're doing so many things. What are you working on at the moment?
I've just turned down another one. They called me before I came on to talk to you. Somebody was asking me to join an advisory board for a new foundation, but I can't do it anymore. I'm so stretched at the moment. At the moment, what am I doing? I mean, obviously, I'm very fortunate to have the position in the House of Lords, and that's a very special platform which I use carefully and sparingly. But in other work, the best thing that I do, the most interesting thing that I do, most fulfilling, is about 12 years ago, I was invited to get involved in a peace process in the Philippines, where, following a civil war in the south of the country, the peace agreement is a bit like the Northern Ireland scenario, is a big chunk of devolution, autonomous government for that community in the south of the Philippines. And because of my experience in Scotland, they asked me to get involved to help mentor them, create the institutions, and make this peace process a success. I go there about once or twice a year. They're about to have their first ever elections to the new devolved parliament in September. And that has been a very fulfilling thing to be involved in. And I've done a little bit of similar things to that in other parts of the world in mediation and peace building, which I really enjoy. I chair a group now called the UK-Japan 21st Century Group, which is the main sort of diplomatic and business liaison group between the UK and Japan, which was a new thing for me 15 years ago, but I've really enjoyed being involved in that, and I now chair it. And that meets at a big conference once a year and makes direct recommendations to both prime ministers for what they should do in their relations between the two countries. And I've just taken on a new role with the UK government in the Department of Culture, Media and Sport as an advisor on soft power, which is badly needed in our world today, I think, given all the hard power that's getting used around the place. So I'm looking forward to taking on that role and advising ministers on what they can be doing to project Britain's soft power around the world rather than just see all these hard power conflicts happening in different places that are causing so much distress.
But you still get a chance to switch off and go for a nice leisurely drive somewhere, do you?
Absolutely. And I enjoy being home. I live in Stirling, where I first went when I left Arran back in when I was 17, went to university, and then where I worked for many years as a school teacher. When I represented Motherwell and Wishaw in the Parliament, I decided I should live in the constituency, partly because I hadn't lived there before. I thought we should move in, and we did that for a decade or more. But then went back to Stirling afterwards, and Stirling's a great place to be. It's one of the best connected.
Yeah.
It's now a city, isn't it? Small cities, and anywhere really. We've got a train station that can take you almost anywhere. We're half an hour away from Edinburgh Airport. Well, maybe I shouldn't say that because that might say something about the speed that I drive at. 40 minutes or so away from Edinburgh
Yes,
Airport.
of course. Equal distances.
But also just that we're at the centre of that motorway network. You can get a motorway from Stirling in almost any direction in Scotland. And all my life, when I've been such an active person, that has been a great bonus.
Yeah.
And living in a town that's got so much itself, but literally 5 minutes from the countryside, it's a very special place to be. So, I love the Isle of Arran. I'll always, everywhere I go in the world, if I'm asked where I come from, I tell them about the Isle of Arran. But I've really enjoyed living in Stirling over the years. It's been perfect for my lifestyle and my quality of life. Yep.
Well, it's been fascinating talking to you, and thank you very much indeed for joining us out of your very busy schedule. As always,
Thank you.
just finally, I remember you mentioning in one of the Ask Jacks that I was hosting that at the age of 16, when you decided to join a political party, it was, of course, the SNP.
Yep.
So before you decided to come to your senses or whatever, but have you any advice for the current leadership of the SNP at the moment?
Well, if you're in a hole, stop digging. My father would have said to me, and it was good advice.
Lord Jack McConnell, thank you very much indeed for joining us on Scotland the Drive. Thank you very much indeed.
Appreciate it. Nice to talk to you. Cheers.
This is Scotland the Drive with Alan Douglas and Ali Bally.
And of course, absolute delight to have Jack McConnell on the show with my first drive. And if there's someone you would like to nominate for us to go and headhunt and get into the podcast studio, then we'd love to hear from you. Email address again is scotlandthedrive@gmail.com. Jack, thank you very much indeed. So we continue our test driving, and we've been out in the BMW, as we spoke about, and we've also been out in the
Audi Q3.
Audi Q3. Lorraine and Alan, let's find out what they thought.
Scotland the Drive. Lorraine's Lane.
I seem to recall Audi presented SUVs to the motor industry over 20 years ago, way before they were popular and other manufacturers were still selling MPVs and functional estate cars. They made the traditional family car much more flexible, more spacious and more attractive. Since then, Audi has introduced other Qs to the lineup with a varying choice of size, offering preference to the driver depending on their personal requirements. But it's the third generation Q3 we're looking at today, and having been around since 2012, there has been significant changes, such as more space and practicality. Our test car was the e-hybrid S-Tronic, which comes with up to 75 miles of electric range. The remainder is up to the petrol engine. Well, looking at the styling of the car, it is an Audi, so we are looking at sleek and sporty lines. I love the single frame grille and the LED lights front and back. Inside, it's modern and spacious, with none of that plasticky or hard surface, and it's very high tech, but not overly so that drivers of a certain age can't operate it. There's very clever use of the interior space with lots of cubby holes to accommodate all sorts of things like phones, tablets, handbags, hot or cold drinks, and the boot space is more than ample to house shopping bags, buggies, or just stuff that we carry around with us. The seating is very comfortable and adaptable with lots of options of driving positions. I took it out on urban and rural roads and was certainly not disappointed. The drive was in the main effortless. Steering and braking is very responsive from the front-wheel drive engine, with perhaps just a little noise from the 6-speed gearbox. The new Q3 has all the safety features you could ever hope for in a car of this quality, and you really get that feeling that if you happen to get into any difficulty at all, the car would help you navigate out of danger. Prices start from around £38,000 and to £58,000 for top of the range, depending on what added extras you add to your particular buy. Strangely, I took a bit of time getting used to the short, clicky indicators, but apart from that, I love driving this Audi Q3. It's refined and versatile, and the hybrid element is perfect for those who are not quite ready to take that giant leap to all electric. That's my thoughts. Alan, what did you think?
Well, the first word that came to mind when I sat in the Q3 was solid. It feels like a tough machine which is built for a lifetime on the road, giving reliable and sturdy performance over the years. It may be just a mid-size crossover, but it has a confident, beefy and muscular look, in contrast to the flood of Chinese brands that see a new name arriving almost every week. They go for fiddly detail in the design and toys in the cabin, which usually greet you with an irritating jingly tune and a jolly welcoming message. The Q3 does none of that, going instead for a more traditional approach. Some may even say a wee bit boring, but at the same time familiar without any surprises. It's Audi's fourth largest seller in Britain and now in its third generation, with a solid customer base who are prepared to pay a bit more for something with a track record and the important 4 rings on the grille. In this case, the final price topped out at almost £52,000, which is a fair old whack for what's effectively still a smallish car in the SUV market. In my week with it, I grew to like it a lot, not least with the economy of upper 40s MPG from the e-hybrid 4-cylinder 1.5-litre power unit under the bonnet, which gave all the power I needed. Plugging into a charger should give about 70 miles of emission-free driving, and I found it did a good job in topping up the battery by regeneration as I drove along. The large, wide, curved panoramic display is clear and controls are user-friendly, even with the unconventional indicator control, which moves away from the traditional stalk to a stubby knob. The Q3 gives what you'd expect from Audi: well-built, quality, reliable, and in one word, solid.
Scotland The Drive with Alan Douglas and Ali Bally.
So there we are. There's the Audi Q3, which is it was another nice car from my point of view. I thoroughly enjoyed driving that. Quite a few good ones coming up as far as driving is concerned in the near future. I'm looking forward to going down to the Mazda 6e launch in Liverpool.
Oh, yeah.
Because I'm driving down to that.
Oh,
and
Liverpool's a hell of a place to get to.
Well, particularly with public transport.
Well, that's what I mean.
Yeah, so I've decided we're driving down to that. The decision is that the test car that I have on that particular week is the Ford van, or taking the Geely, one of the two. So, we'll find out what we end up taking down.
I think the van would be fine.
Thanks very much.
For Liverpool. It's a good test.
Yeah, it would
Right,
be just, yeah.
than a van. Yeah. And it's a wee one as well.
Yes.
It's
yeah,
not.
yeah.
It's
It's not the big one.
No. Right. Just some final thoughts. You ever thought of being a driving examiner? Not a driving instructor, a driving examiner. The guy.
Well, there is a shortage.
There is. That's one of the reasons why there's this backlog, because there's a shortage. I wonder why there's a shortage. How much do you think a driving examiner earns?
I would go somewhere between 55 and 65,000 a year.
It's a stressful job. I mean, you
Yeah,
get in a car with a complete stranger. Hopefully they can drive, but you've no guarantee of that because it's been handed over by the instructor. You've no dual controls, probably, unless you're in the school car.
Many tests do you think they do a day?
I think they do an average of 7 a day.
Imagine sitting in a car with 7 different teachers.
No.
Yeah. Stressful.
It's a tough day. I wouldn't fancy it. 30,000 a year is the average.
30,000?
30.
Little wonder there's a shortage.
Well, who would do it for that? I mean, it's thankless. Well, imagine you either pass somebody or you fail them. If you pass them, you're their best friend. If you fail them, you're their worst enemy. So, it's one or the other, light and shade. I wouldn't fancy it. And that's apparently one of the reasons why there's a shortage.
Not surprised.
And there's a shortage, which means there's a huge backlog. How long do you think it takes to wait for your driving test in Scotland?
Well, we spoke about this a few editions ago, and there was a young lady was ready to sit her test now in Aberdeen, and the first date she could get was October.
Yeah, well, the current waiting time is 23 weeks, almost 6 months. Which is the longest time in the UK. It's longer than England, longer than Wales. And then if you have to wait that length of time, you've got to pay for probably extra lessons to keep your skills up. It could delay you, so you've got more other travel costs. Perhaps it could even affect your job prospects. You can't go for a job you want to go for because it requires a driving license. There's huge implications. So something needs to be done. They need to recruit more driving examiners. And I have to say, they'll have to offer a better salary than an average of £30,000, with lots of weekend work as well, and all the stress, and up to 7 tests a day.
I didn't know that you could sit your test at the weekend.
Oh yes, you pay more for it though.
Do you?
It costs more at the weekend, yeah. I can't remember what the price
No.
is, but it's something like 75 quid as opposed to 55. It's something.
But you're right. Something, as we said before, something needs to be done about that.
It needs to be
Needs to be
done.
done.
Something must be done. Right. Okay. Well, that's about it.
That's it. That's
Yeah,
it for
yeah,
this
yeah.
particular edition of Scotland the Drive. You can listen on Spotify, watch on YouTube, and follow Scotland the Drive on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok. And remember, if you'd like to get in touch, we'd love to hear from you. You can email scotlandthedrive@gmail.com. From me, Ali Bally.
I was thinking, what have we got next time? I don't know.
Tune in and find out.
We'll look forward to it, finding out what we've got next time. So thanks for joining us, and we'll see you next time.
Safe driving. Bye-bye.
Scotland the Drive with Alan Douglas and Ali Bally.